Dan here. I hope you're doing well today. In this lesson, I'm going to take those 4 chords and teach you how to make an amazing bass line using a few different ideas, the first of which is rhythm and groove. So this PDF here you can download for free, and what I've got here is the rhythm of the kick drum. You don't have to follow this, but it's always a good starting point. If we're going back this fast, the rhythm is... One listen to the kick drum. So what we'll do first is just play the chord progression, which is this: F minor 7, A flat major 7, D flat major 7, E major 7. I'll break that down and explain that later. But for now, we're just taking the letters and we're just going to play that rhythm with those notes. So just F on the 1st fret of the E string, A flat 4th fret of the E string, D flat 4th fret of the A string, and we'll play E at the open string. So I'm just going to play that rhythm. There's something very satisfying about locking into the kick drum. If you do that live in a session, rehearsal, you're halfway there, I think, to creating a good groove. That's always the part of the drums I think the bass gravitates towards the most. In the intro, I wasn't really doing that specifically. I was omitting a note. Instead of going like this, I was doing this groove a lot. Simplifying it even more, just hanging on to that first note a bit longer. There, I was embellishing a bit more. So when we come to think about note selection, we are thinking about the key that we're in and what notes fit. And that's, broadly speaking, what we need to do. So before we do that, I'll build things up a little bit more sort of basically than that. Let's start off actually with the arpeggios on each of the chords. So F minor 7, that's the first chord symbol. And this is the F minor 7 arpeggio. I've got a fretboard diagram of it and notation. This is how it goes. That's F minor 7. A flat major 7 is the next one. So start with your 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the E string. I like patterns because, as you can see, the next one is also a major 7th and it's exactly the same pattern, now on a D flat, which you just pop your finger on the 4th fret of the A string. Then we have this E major 7. So what I'll do now is just play the arpeggio on each of the bars. First just up and down, and then I might add some of the rhythm stuff in. Ally it to that bass drum a bit more. fourth bar of a phrase is often a good place to put in a fill, and I just made it a little bit busier. Something like that. But over each of the chord symbols, and that's often what I do, by the way. I look at the chord symbols and I'll go off that. It's all about listening and finding out what works. Listening to the keyboard, the chords, and finding out what is your bass line supposed to be. So keeping it quite simple here. But the F minor 7, it's a very good choice using those notes from the chord tones there. A flat major 7. But when I did the groove, that note, the red blob, that's the root note. Very important. You can keep your bass line simple by playing roots, fifths, and octaves, which has the added benefit of working over every chord. That's the same shape on every single different root note. Or you can think about harmony a bit more. So harmony is chords, basically, how notes work together. And if you want to outline the harmony a little more, that's where your thirds and your sevenths come in. That's what defines the quality of a chord, whether it's major, minor, etc. Now, you don't want to sound like you're playing an exercise, so that's why you want to lean quite heavily on space as well, what you don't play, and also just, you know, really reducing things and sticking to the groove, to the rhythm side of things. Let's improvise something, see if anything springs to mind. So many things you can play. What I was doing there was simplifying the note selection a bit. I did this. There's an E, 7th fret, A string. I'm describing you the process that goes on in my mind real time, so I'll try my best. That note there, same fret, but dropping down a string in pitch to the E. That's like the 5th. Roots, fifths, octaves, very simple. The other thing I was doing was that I was a little bit of ghost note action in there, and maybe thinking more in terms of rhythm than in terms of playing lots of different notes. So it's very slow, 70 beats per minute. As a bass player, you've got to be all over the rhythm. It's got to be locked in. So I'm tapping my foot, and the smallest subdivision, the smallest rhythm I'm going to be using is 16th notes. So at this speed, that's dividing every beat into 4. So we're going. I literally do have that. I'm not actually doing that, but I'm feeling that on every beat. Or you can go 1E and a 2E, and you just have to have that as normally as you're breathing. It's got to be in like that. So, you know, you can call on those rhythms whenever you want. And I'm not doing that all the time, just every now and again. The final point really on note choice is that I've given you 1 octaves here of, say, the F minor 7 arpeggio. But you do need to know it in different registers and different positions. The other thing that's really useful to use is the minor pentatonic scale. I'll just talk about the key that we're in. We're in the key of F minor, this scale here. That's an excellent choice of notes to link up the different chords, apart from the E, which is from outside of the key, but F minor to A flat. Now I'm using notes from the scale to, it's almost quite melodic. There's the D flat, and there's the E. Now that kind of brings me to the next point, which is that you can play a mode over every one of these. We won't worry too much about what it means, but basically you have a key, in this case F minor, and on any one of those 7 different notes within that key you can build a chord. Now we've already done that. That's the F minor 7, the A flat major 7 and the D flat major 7. Those 3 chords belong to the key of F minor, but the E is nowhere to be seen. And when you write music, you can do that. You can borrow chords from other keys and whack them in, and it can often sound surprising and interesting, and I love that chord progression. So as a general rule, if you're in a major or minor key and a major 7th chord comes from nowhere, from outside the key, you can play what's called this Lydian mode over it. We won't worry too much about that, but the Lydian mode is the 4th mode of a major scale, and it just fits in this situation. So let's have a look. We've got F Aeolian, otherwise known as F natural minor. These are all just choices. You don't have to play all these notes, but over that F minor 7, the arpeggio, which came from the scale, or mode, those are both options. And if you play F minor from A flat, you get that A flat Ionian or A flat major. It's like a subset of the overall key. F minor, A flat major are related keys. And notice the scale gives you the arpeggio. You just take the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th and the 7th. That's how all these things are built. It's very mathematical, very formulaic. The D flat, the 6th note of the minor scale. If we play F minor but starting on the D flat, we get what's called a Lydian, a D flat Lydian mode, which of course gives you the arpeggio. Now, that's what I said just now. When you have a major 7th chord that doesn't come from the key, Lydian works over it. And so E Lydian. So what I'll do now is I'll just play the mode along to the backing track. You can practice this at home. It's all free. You can download this, no problem. And let's see what that sounds like. Now, so far, that's quite theoretical. We have a bunch of notes that we know fits. We talked a bit about rhythm. And now your job is to know those 2 things so well that you can craft a bass line without thinking too much about these things, which you will have to do initially. So let's play again. I'm now just going to play as if I was on a session. Ever there's an E major chord, I know that the open E and the harmonics at the 9th fret work. You just put your finger, first finger, just barring over the 9th fret of the G and the D strings, come away, and that always works. I was a little bit busy there in my playing, but the real thing that I want to get across to you is that yes, I'm teaching you individual arpeggios for the chords and those modes and things like that, but at no point am I thinking about any of those things. That's what practice is for. You practice all these things so that they're embedded in you and you can call upon them. That's what happens if you want to get really good at this. Let's talk about technique a little bit. So ghost notes, where you mute with your fretting hand and you pluck. I use them quite a lot, even in something quite slow as this. Something like that. Definitely not all the time, and it might be completely inappropriate actually. I do things like that a lot. So I'm on the A flat here. I'm using this shape of A flat major pentatonic. Any major pentatonic works with any major chord, and any minor pentatonic works with any minor chord. I personally lean on that a lot. So this shape here. And I suppose we all have things that we like to do. We speak a certain way, we play a certain way, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know I do this a lot. So a slide from the second to the third note. Things like that, hammer-ons. And a little bit of vibrato at the end there. To me, I mean, I listen to players like Tony Levin, all the R&B, soul, Motown players, and lots of rock guys, and I love expressive techniques. I love soulful playing. That's what I've gravitated towards. You listen to people you like and you gain, ideas from them that you like. But this is something I love doing. Can't get enough of it. So I'll do stuff like that. I suppose harmonics is a technique, and if there's an excuse to get some in, I quite kind of like to do that, Otherwise, it's pretty simple. You really need to get from one chord to the next chord in a musical way. One way you do that is to use the notes of the scale. That was a chromatic note, actually, from outside the scale. And I was just using notes of that E Lydian there. Which I just love that sound, and it works so great over that chord. And that's what it's all about, just linking one chord to the next in a musical way. You are the link between the rhythm, the harmony, and the melody. That's one of the things I love about bass so much. You have control over those elements more than any other instrument in the band. So really, people want you, your bandmates want you to play in time and in tune. They want a groove from you. But if you can outline notes of the harmony as well, that's great. And if you can make a melodic bass line at the same time, that's also great. So that you can lean on different elements, think about those, practice those, and come up with loads of different bass lines. I've got quite a few other lessons that are a bit like this. Chord progression, take you through it, offer you some tips and tricks and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll put a few of those in the link below. So you go to the link, click it, you'll get the PDF for free, you'll get the backing track for free, and those other lessons. I mean, if you get something from that and you enjoy the lessons and the PDFs and all that, please do give the video a like, subscribe, spread the word. I'm trying to grow the channel. That all really helps. If you have any questions, do let me know, and see you on the next lesson.